Fun Army! Welcome back to Life and Other Circus Skills, where Rosie's random makes are back. I mean, they never really go away, but they're not happening like constantly. I do have weeks where I'm not randomly making something, but anyway, it's another Rosie's random make. Woohoo! So, this week, it's 2022 now. Which I'm not gonna lie, every time I try and type it, it comes out as 2002. I don't know what that means psychologically. If anyone does, please let me know. But I'm sure it means something. But as we come into this new year, it doesn't really feel any different to the last one. But I am hopefully actually going to leave the country this year. We've not talked about it much because we've been in lockdown the entire time I've had this channel, but I actually like travelling abroad and visiting new places because it's fun and exciting. And as you know, fun and exciting is my main ambition in life. So the big ambition for this year, I say ambition, it's happening, we've booked it. We've booked it, it's happening. I shall not allow anything to get in the way of this. We are going to Disney. Yay! This is not a video about, well, it is a video about Disney, but not about the ins and outs of the trip. We'll talk about that later because we're not going until the end of September. But in preparation for this trip, I want to get my Disney bounding on. Now, if you've not heard of Disney bounding, this is basically a concept where you're not allowed to do like proper full-on cosplay in the Disney parks of Disney characters because obviously they pay people to do that. They don't want children getting confused and thinking that random stranger dressed up like a Disney princess is actually a formal Disney princess. There's obviously a whole lot of issues that could happen if that were the case. But this concept of Disney bounding was invented by a super fan who basically decided that because she couldn't cosplay, she wanted to effectively dress up in the colours and the style of a certain character, and that is Disney bounding. So there are numerous different ways to do it, and I haven't quite figured out my whole Disney bounding concept yet, but we have made a list of characters that I would potentially like, oh my god, sorry, I've got the hiccups, that I would potentially like to Disney bound. And I'd also been thinking about the fact that I am very pale. And I'm not really sure how I survived Florida last time I went there. I know I was wearing Factor 50 every day, but being youthful, I was literally just trotting around in a pair of shorts and a vest top the entire time. I don't know how I didn't get burnt to death. I'm a lot more sensitive and cautious now, so these days I don't really go anywhere without my sun umbrella, which is great for most things, but there are certain circumstances like I've been sat in sort of stadium stands before and you obviously cannot have your sun umbrella up in that scenario. And I'd been investigating hats, and I don't really suit hats, and I was sort of going, well, you know, I'll just have to get over it. But it was also that thing of, I slightly want one, like that really massively ridiculous one Rachel has in Friends, because I don't just need it to cover my head, I need it to like cast a shadow around all the bits that would normally get burnt. Just keep me in shade, please. I haven't found one in regular shops yet, so, and also I also wasn't sure how entirely practical that was for trotting around Disney. People bumping into my Muhasib hat. But as I was thinking about the Disney bounding, I had this, what I consider to be an amazing idea, that I should have like little capes. So I just have a hood and like a little cape to just cover the areas that would get burnt, and then I'll be fine. And it fits really nicely with the concept of Disney bounding because it's still on the costumey side, and allows me to sort of bring an outfit together and all of that kind of jazz. The hood can be up or down as I need it during the day. So I just got really excited about this. So the mission is that I am ultimately going to make a series of capes. And what we are starting today is the first one. Now, with it being the beginning of the year, I decided I'm not going to buy any new fabric. Give it a couple of months before I can spend any more money. So I'm not sure if this one's going to be red or royal blue. I'm looking yonder where I can see the fabric, which is basically the remnants from the fabric I bought to do the Sorcerer's Apprentice outfit. So I'm not sure which one it's going to be because I need to see actually how much I've got of each and which is going to be enough. I definitely think I'm going to need a red one, even though I haven't made all the final decisions on what characters I'm going to do it. No, that was not English. Well, it was English. It was just English in word. English in a construct that didn't make any sense. Oh my god. You can't see it, but I have a massive cup of tea here. I'm going to take a sip. Please hold. Oh, that's better. Right. Maybe now I've had some tea, I can put words in the right order. Maybe. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know. I think I'm going to need a red one anyway, even though I haven't decided on all of the characters. So yeah, I'm hoping I've got enough of the red. We'll see. Once I finish making the pattern, we'll be able to see. So in terms of how I put this together, I did have a little look round because I felt like this needed proper research. Because what I don't want to do is do them lined because it's going to be really hot. So, and putting stuff over your head is just going to make you hotter. Well, it certainly does for me anyway. So what I don't really want to do is add more to the heat I will be radiating any more than I need to. So I just want it to be a single layer, and this fabric is nice and quite thin. So I really want to focus on finishing the edges nicely. So this is you know, A, it will look nice, and B, it's a great opportunity to practice my seam finishing, which I still haven't really entirely understood the concept of. But I think I'm going for the infamous French seams, which I hear the French call English seams. Seams. Hashtag seams. So, with that in mind, I've actually looked at a few different tutorials and make-throughs on the line, and there wasn't one that really fitted what I wanted, so I think I'm taking from about 3 or 4 at this point. So my plan is to make the main capelet in the style of a circle skirt, so the pattern will be circular with a neck hole. Then we'll make the hood, which I'm basically just going to draw around a hoodie hood for my shape, although that might be something that we need to play with because there's part of me that wants a really big dramatic hood, and there's part of me that's going, this is supposed to keep you shaded, so is it better to have one that's just a wee bit smaller and will stay on my head and not flap about? I don't know, or would it be better to have a big dramatic hood because that gives more shade? I don't know, so we might have to experiment a little bit with the hood. And again, that will depend on how much fabric we've got, whether I just have to suck up whatever hood I have enough fabric for right here, and then whether we play about with it on the next one that we do. So we're going for 14 days. Some of them will be reusable depending on the outfit, but yeah, it may be that we make up to 10 of these or something. I haven't quite figured out the full picture. We're just going to start with one, and we're starting in January, so I've got time to refine my process and then start to figure out if there's anything else that I need to make for these outfits. Because sort of the concept behind Disney bounding is that actually you're not really having to make much stuff. You're sort of using clothing that you already have or that you see that aligns to maybe the colour palette or the patterns that you would see in a particular character. So like obviously if you were doing Minnie, you might have massive polka dots in your outfit, or you might sort of follow the colours of Ariel by having some red in your hair and then a particular colour on top and then a particular colour on bottom to sort of match, you know, her shells and her tail and that kind of thing. So I need to do a lot more concepting on that part, but yeah. We're starting with the cape, which I think will be the easiest bit of all of this, and then I'm going to get to the wider planning. So yeah, keep an eye on the Instagram because I will try and keep a log of everything that I'm making in the process, and obviously there will be probably more than one of these vlogs showing my progress of how we're getting on. So it's been a lot of waffle to explain what we're going to do, so I might just now get on and do it. based on one of the videos I was following, I'm basically just sort of taking the measurements that this particular girl used, and I'm going to see how that works for me. I might want to make it a bit smaller, I can't tell yet. I hope I don't need to make it bigger, because otherwise we'll need to start again. So I think that's 43 by 43 inches we are going for. And that's obviously the base square, that's not the circle. So the radius of the circle we are creating, I think, is 19 inches. So let's get to it. So that's that done, and now onto the hood. So I don't have enough red, unless I want to do it in sections, which I don't. So we're going to go with the blue, which means we are in theory in Snow White territory. So the main bit's going to be blue, but obviously she has like a red bow in her hair and like little red bits in her poofy sleeves. So I'm thinking I might have to do a red trim or something. So I'm pondering on that whilst we go, but I'm going to cut out in the meantime. So, here we are. I have done all of the pressing, and then I've pinned up, just trying to screw this up now, the top and back of the hood. So basically we're going to sew that round, and then we do a bit of gizmo magic, which is basically that we sew the seam, then we cut the seam down, being very careful not to cut through the seam. That's where I'm clearly going to go wrong. And then you effectively press the seam open and then turn it round and sew it the other way. I think that's the bit that's confusing, because once again there's a whole right sides, wrong sides, and I've got fabric that's the same on both sides, so that's a little bit confusing. But basically, the idea of the French seam is that you have a seam enclosed by another seam. So what will happen is we'll have once we've cut round the first seam, you then effectively sort of have like that first seam gets folded under and then sewn in again, and that just kind of makes it flat and neat and out of the way. This is my first attempt at one of these, so I really don't know how it's going to go. But we're aiming to do it all over this cloak, so lots of opportunities to practice. And as we've discussed, this is the first of multiple cloaks, so many, 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 many opportunities to practice the old French seams. So we start with the hood, because basically you do all of the hood bits, then you attach the hood to the top of the cape, and then you go around the outside of the cape, is the theory. And then I've also got this random panel of blue fabric. I've been having a lot of debate about how I want to close the cape, because with it being designed to keep the sun away from, you know, bits that get burnt. I want it to be quite secure across the chest, so it's not falling off and slipping around. So rather than having a tie, which would then sort of leave more of it open to sort of flapping about, I'm basically going to have like a little panel like this, and then there's going to be some Velcro on the end there, so you can just Velcro it to and fro. That's the plan, anyway. What I haven't yet figured out is at what point I sew this in. So I think I'm going to, the reason it's pinned is because I'm going to sew round it, and then turn it right way out so that that's ready. And then I think it will basically get sewn in as I'm finishing one of the outer seams of the cape. But that's the bit I've got to figure out. Because I think if you were doing this like normally and you were lining the cape, you could just put it between the outside and the lining. But we're purposefully not lining the cape, so that's the bit I've got to figure out. I'm sure it'll be fine, because it, you know, ultimately it just sort of needs to fold under that bit, because everything else will be neat anyway. She says, totally makes sense in my mind. Let's see how we get to. Let's start with the hood anyway. Step one thing at a time, as always. Do the first sew, then try not to cut through the seams, then figure out how the second sew works and what I'm supposed to be ironing and whatnot, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so this is now, don't ask me whether this is right side or wrong side, but basically the seam I've just sewn, the flap, is on the inside. So I basically turned it round, I've now pressed it to try and flatten this down. So what we're going to do now is pin up the top and the back again, and I have to make sure that I've enclosed the flap inside that, because then when we turn it back the other way, that should all be enclosed and nice and neat, if we've done it correctly. That is the moment of truth, ladies and gents. So let's give it a crack and see. Moment of truth. This is a sewn seam. Let us turn it round. It's a miracle! This is also a sewn seam, and this is the nice, neat edges of the sewn seam. Boom! Loving the French seam. Okay, I now need to go and press this so that we've got the hood crease nice and sharp before we move on to the next thing. But that was pretty cool. I'm pretty impressed by that. Fairly sure the next ones aren't going to be quite as easy because we're attaching things and then hemming. But I'm pleased. So far, so neat seams. Okie dokie, so we're pinned on. I actually had to widen the neckline of the main wraparound bit. If you remember, that was like the centre of our donut. I'm not actually sure how the girl who did the donut version attached her hood without doing the same thing, unless she did and just didn't show it in her video. So I've sort of taken the hood attachment from another video and then widened the neckline accordingly. I'm hoping it doesn't upset the shape too much, because the reason I went with the donut approach was that I really liked sort of the volume of like the circular approach. It meant you got lots of layers and things. And obviously the bonus of that neckline being the circle was that then it came quite close to the neck, and again protecting those areas that might get sunburn. So I'm hoping that hasn't thrown things off, but equally I didn't know how else to attach the hood without then trying to cut down the hood, which seemed like the wrong way to go. So we're gonna just keep going and see what happens, to be honest. I'll make what adjustments I can. If you can cope with the wrong side versus right side of the same material, this is wrong sides together, so that nice French seam that we've sewn is on the inside of this, and then obviously with the main cloak bit it doesn't have an inside or an outside just yet, but we're about to make one as we sew this line. Wish me luck. This one's also going to be a French seam, I think. So we sew it, trim it, do the same thing again. I think. I'm slightly scared about this one because it, you know, we're starting to lose material at this point if it goes wrong. So it's on. Hi, I look kind of like a cape. Here's the hood. Here's the main capey bit. Swoosh, swoosh. It's going to be super swooshy. But obviously you'll notice that the seam is on the outside at the moment. So the next step is to cut that down. And cut that down, and then we do right sides together and we sew again, and that's what encases the seam, she says, hopefully. It's so terrifying, it really is. If it's going to go wrong, it's going to go wrong at this point. So please, let's just say a little blessing to the gods of cosplay. Please, 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 don't let me screw this up. We can do it, we can do this. So I've trimmed and pressed, and we're now about to sew over all of that on the other side, so right sides together. And this is the last formal seam, everything else will be hems. So if this goes okay, all is well with the world. Dare we look? I think it's okay. It's okay! Oh, she says, I can totally find the top of the cape. Awkward. There we go, there's the top of the cape. Flouncy, flouncy. Oh, that's nice. And then we've got the nice finished hems on the inside. Oh, do you know what? This is like the most exciting thing I've ever done. Well, not ever, but like thus far in my sewing journey. Let me categorize this. This is going to be hilarious because I've obviously already got a hoodie on. So that will sit like that. Boom! Cape! And then, oh, wait for it, wait for it. Boom! Hood! I'll obviously fix this later. But we're getting there. So, yeah, I think aside from figuring out how and when to insert this, we're mostly just hemtastic now. And then hopefully sunburn free. So, I think I figured out what I perhaps should have done instead of trimming the neckline, because I actually, like, this, just these tiny pieces was all I took off the neckline to make it less circular and to make it a similar width to the bottom of the hood. But what it has effectively done, I don't know how well you can see it from here, well, actually you can see it a little bit, is that it's now made it a lot shorter at the front and a lot longer at the back, which I don't hate. It's not what I was going for. So I think I probably should have gathered the neckline of the hood, so then it would sort of, it would fit the circle, but then it would sort of, I guess, billow out a little bit at the bottom. I think that's my in-brain physics trying to figure that out. So I'm going to have to remember that to try for the next one, and I'm sure the gathering is going to be a painful process in and of itself. But we are where we are. I can't undo it. So the main thing will be, I had a good ponder, because I was also a bit like, well, now that it's shorter at the front, do I need this, or do I actually just put Velcro down, you know, the inside / outside of the two front pieces so that they just join directly. That might actually be a better way rather than trying to have an additional flap. Because I think my original thinking was, oh, it only needs to be attached a little bit so that then you've got room to manoeuvre, but actually there's so much material there. I think you probably have enough room to manoeuvre anyway, and then you don't have to do up the whole of the Velcro. So I still haven't really decided on that, but I'm going to have to make a decision soon if I'm going to include it in the nice finished seams. I think it might be easier to try without. Well, not easier. Better. I think that's the better choice. I think I've got more flexibility if I don't have the flap. And then if I decide I actually don't like the vertical Velcro approach, then we can change it for the next one. I think this is the thing. This is the first one. It's going to be a bit trial and error until I find exactly the way I want to do it. It's gone pretty well so far. The inner seams look beautiful, which was a massive win, to be honest. So yeah, and I could always remake this one later, get some more fabric sorted, if I decide actually I don't like the final shape. So it's a year-long project. Well, a 9-month-long project. It's January, so we've only got 9 months until Disney D-Day, if you will. So yeah, anyway, next steps are to sort out the hemming, and I'm not sure if I can just literally fold and pin or whether I need to press and fold and pin, so I'm just going to check to see what some of the tutorials have done and then decide which method I like best, because yeah, I'm guessing the lady whose French seams, just noticed there is just a random bit of blue thread just hanging off there. Yes, the lady who showed me how to do the French seams so nicely must have her own nice neat way of hemming as well, so I'm quite keen to see what she has done and see if I can apply that here. So, onwards. Okay, so what we've done is around the outside, so from the bottom up, around the hood, back down again, I have folded over once, folded over twice, pressed that shit down, pinned it, and now we're about to sew that. And then once we've done that, we're going to do the same along the bottom, fold, fold, pin, sew, and then we're done aside from the fastening. It's disturbingly quick. I feel unnerved. It's fine. So sewing the bottom hem took a very long time. You're like, how can this tiny thing take a really long time? It's a full circle, it's very long. But it's done. And it looks fairly neat. As neat as my sewing gets, anyway. So that's cool. So I think... oh, somebody needs to slip the threads, please hold. I think what I'm going to do next is go and try it on and then figure out where the Velcro needs to go. And then that's our final step, basically. And then it's time for the reveal. Stay tuned. Okay, so... can't find the front. There we go. So, I've basically pinned it together where... Can you see that? Pinned it together where I want it to land. Which is... I don't know how well you can see it, maybe if I hold it this way. Slightly overlapping. So it's sort of like a mini pie slice shape. And I thought it was going to be quite difficult to see that for me to put the Velcro on, but actually, because the fabric is quite thin, now I'm holding up to the light, I'm like, oh, actually no, that is quite easy to see. So, one piece of the Velcro needs to go on the bottom and one piece of the Velcro needs to go on the top. And that is nerve-wracking. here is the Velcro. I've never actually stuck on Velcro before, so we're going to see how it goes. There's lots of warnings like, do not reposition it once you've like stuck it down because that lessens stickiness. You obviously can sew down Velcro, but as this is my first stab, at least it works. Yeah, I just thought we'd try the sticking version, see how that goes for me, and we'll go from there. So, it's fine. I'm not nervous. You're nervous. I think actually the easiest thing to start, because the piece that goes on the front will literally just sit on the edge, is the piece that goes underneath. So I think if I can just flap it over underneath where it's pinned and see the surface underneath, and we can get that in the right place. Okay, so it's obviously like a little bit not flat because of where I've put the pins. So I'm just trying to do this without completely taking the pins out. I don't know, like putting the little hook side on first is probably the more dangerous, but equally it probably needs to be the one that's on the bottom. So let's cut a piece. So what if then we basically pop that there, and that there. There we go. So we know it's basically got to go here. No problem, not at all nerve-wracking. Why does that always happen? Oh my god, right. Do not lessen the stickiness. I'm doing it, there's no going back. I've just read on the packet as well that they do recommend hand sewing this as well as the stickiness. They also recommend sticking it down for 24 hours before you practice opening it. I'm like, how am I supposed to check if it's worked? Do I have to wait 24 hours? Oi. Okay. So we basically need this to be the same length. I perhaps should have done this before I stuck it down, but never mind. It basically needs to sit on this inside. Oh. And thus we are done. Time to try it out now. Hello. So I think this is good for the first attempt. The shape is there, as I say. I think where we went slightly awry with this was in trying to flatten out the neckline so the hood would fit. Because what I'm hoping is that basically, if I don't do that, A, it'll be a uniform length all the way around rather than sort of, you know, like business in the back, party in the front sort of scenario. And also that we'll have a bit more, like I'm thinking, if I sew it to a gather, then yeah, we'll have a bit more weight around the hood, so it's a bit more, you know, Belle running around the castle and the garden in her hood, rather than I'm a page about to storm the castle in medieval times. Which is no bad thing, it's just not quite what I was aiming for. Like, I think, Professor adjusting it in the mirror, I think, because also I'm going to be wearing a backpack as well, so that's going to like upset the weight distribution. Let's also remember this is designed to keep the sun off my face, my neck, my chest, my shoulders, which it does. And I think once I figured out like the rest of the outfit, that will sort of bring it up a level as well. So no, I'm pretty pleased. I'm definitely very pleased with having learned how to do French seams and how the hemming and whatnot has come out. I feel like progression-wise, we have made some big leaps here. So yeah, I don't know which one I'm going to do next because it'll be payday soon, so I can afford to buy some new fabric because we obviously didn't have enough of the red. And I've got quite a long list of characters that I would like to Disney bound. As we mentioned at the beginning, this is more kind of Snow White. I had considered maybe doing some red, not quite stripes, but you know, red embellishments to make it a little bit more obviously Snow White, and I may do that later on, but I just wanted to focus on doing the main cape right now. But in my list we've got things like a female Jafar, maybe a pirate from Pirates of the Caribbean, someone from Marvel potentially, the evil queen, lots of good people on the list. So yeah, I'm gonna maybe look at the list, see who jumps out at me first, and then decide which one we're gonna start on next. But I hope you've enjoyed this part of the journey. Keep an eye on Instagram because that's probably where I'll keep you updated on the cape collection. It is still January, so we've got 8 months to go. Which seems like a long time, except for, you know, this took me probably most of a week in little blocks of time that I had each day to put this together, so that's why I started so early. Just in case you were wondering why I started so early, that's why. And also we've got a lot of outfits to prepare and then figure out how I'm going to pack it all, plus leave space for buying lots of stuff at Disney. Lots of stuff. I have joked that I'm basically going to buy a Disney suitcase while I'm out there and then fill it with Disney stuff. It started as a joke. Anyway, this has been making my first little capelet for my Disney bounding adventure. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any requests for what I should be doing next on my sewing journey, I would love to hear them. Because aside from doing the rest of my capelets for Disney, I haven't really figured out what that is yet myself, so any suggestions are definitely welcome there. Otherwise, thanks for watching and I'll see you again next time. Bye!